Hi guys, my name's Lien and welcome to my podcast, Gen Z Talks. First of all, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to click on this podcast. Must say, this is actually my first time doing anything like this. By that I mean stuff that in the nature of putting myself out there into the world. I'm quite a person who's very closed when it comes to social media. I do have all social medias, but I'm never that kind of person that actually posts anything at all. I'm not that kind of teenager, but yeah, so I'm in a position of almost quite scared, but at the same time quite excited. Going to that, this is my first time ever doing a podcast. I do want my podcast to be as raw as it can be, so it's almost like a casual conversation that I have with my listeners in the future, because I don't have any listeners at the moment while I'm doing this. But anyway, if that's the kind of podcasting style that you're looking for, hope I'm able to serve y'all as well, and tune in up until the end of the episode if you're into that. I'll try my best to be as interesting as I can be. Okay, so since this is gonna be the first episode of my podcast Gen Z Talks, I wanna quickly just introduce myself and at the same time introduce the podcast, most importantly. Let's start with me. So my name's Lien. I'm 19. I graduated high school 2018. And if it's not obvious yet, I'm also a part of the cohort Gen Z. So there's not a particular time frame from which Gen Zs were born just yet, in my very shallow research that I did about our generation. So by Wikipedia it says it's around an estimate between late 1990s to early 2000. That's the estimation that they have. So if that's the case, I'll be around the early mid of Gen Z, since I am born year 2000, millennium kid here, so that's basically like a quick introduction of myself. Let's get into the podcast. What's Gen Z Talk? What's this podcast? Okay, so this podcast, I just want to clear out a few things. This is a podcast wherein it's a medium for me to express and manifest my thoughts, opinions, and feelings about various contemporary ideas, concepts, and issues. So none of these particular ideas that I and opinions that I voice out is backed by my particular generation. This is all my thoughts and opinions, unless I state otherwise that this is a particular opinion that quite a majority of us have to say. So there's that. And why am I making this podcast? Okay, so I'm making Gen Z Talks as like I said, it's a way for me to voice out myself, especially in the world where a lot of commentary and opinions and discussions is really important. I'm all for that idea, free speech and being able to discuss a lot of things. I feel like as though it is really important in human interactions and society as a whole. And most importantly, as well as because it's 2020, y'all. It's 2020 and it's a new decade coming, and Gen Z in particular as a generation needs to voice out a lot of their thoughts, feelings, and opinions in a lot of things that are occurring in the society. This is quite a big decade, not just for us but youth as a whole. So this is going to be a medium for me to actually at least be an individual, a part of this cohort, to voice out quite a lot of these thoughts and opinions. So yeah, that's basically all Gen Z talk is. I'll probably be discussing quite a bit issues such as global warming. That's really important. Go for Greta. I do believe that she's doing quite a good job at waking people up when it comes to the issues of global awareness. And global warming, what else, like sexuality, that's those things, thankfully not something taboo to talk about nowadays, but I feel like as though, okay, so a big part of me with this podcast is my target audiences isn't specific to my generation. This podcast, I'd like this to be a bridge as well for the older generations to be able to understand quite a bit of our culture today. So so sexuality, gender, my generation in particular, Gen Z, that's probably going to be in my earlier episodes. I think it's really important to talk about our generations. And in certain particular meme culture that's occurring that I do want to discuss about, something in particular like the OK Boomer meme. I do have quite a concern in that, particularly being a person that I feel advocate to my at least I'm not an advocate, but it's something that I feel I advocate to myself, and it's the capacity to be able to discuss whether this particular discussions aren't particularly as ideal as it is. It's a discussion, at least, that, you know, I feel as though we really do need to talk about. We need to talk about stuff, y'all. we really do need to talk about a lot of things, and that's really important as for societal innovation, if I don't know, I think that's the proper word for it. Okay, so yeah, so that's what Gen Z talk is. Basically, that's the podcast. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I actually don't know what ways am I going to deliver my podcast. I have a very, very rough idea. At the moment, I'm recording this 5:39 a.m. 8th of January. I do have a rough estimate on how am I going to like put this podcast out there. I have my cover done. I made it myself. I'm quite proud of it, actually. If you clicked on this, yeah, that cover, I made that. I'm quite happy with that design. Okay, but anyway, let's stop. Let's stop with that thingamajigs. Okay, more about myself. So a big part that I understand with these kinds of podcasts is, there's this particular quote that really stuck to me quite a couple months ago. I'm not quite sure whereabouts I got it from. I think it's from a documentary series, but it goes along the line that it doesn't matter what job you do or what industry you're in. You're a salesperson and you're doing sales. You're the brand, and whatever you do is your product. I probably stretched that quite a bit to my own wordings, but it explains what it is. So understanding that I'll be the brand of this podcast, and my podcast is my product. So for people to understand more of myself or the brand, what else is a better idea than just getting to know me as a host for this podcast? So so I had this rough idea. Like I said, I want my podcast to be as raw as it can be, where it's almost like a conversation that you're having with me. So so my idea is, right now I actually have a computer right in front of me, and it's basically, I'm not sure if you're hearing me typing down the keys. I hope you do. So it has that, typing effect that it has, and it'll be dope. Okay, so philosophical questions. So yeah, what's a better way than knowing your host talking about various societal issues than actually getting to know how they think? and how they feel and what their stand is in various issues. So basically I just typed down philosophical questions, and the first link that popped up is a list of philosophical questions by this website called allocation.com. Okay, so it says here 105 philosophical questions that will make you think and elicit debate. Ooh, that's really interesting. Okay, so I do want this to be as interactive as it is, as it can to my listeners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this philosophical questions, and while I'm explaining it, it's up to you to listen or not. But I do want you all to think of it and feel it as well. You know, I want you all to have your own means of answering these questions. I want you all to elicit debate within you. You know, quoting from the title of this particular article. Okay, so basically looking at it now, it appears that they have organized this in various kinds of ways, saying that this particular section is philosophical questions about death. Philosophical questions, happy philosophical questions. Yeah. So yeah, okay, well, there's 105 in here. I'll just read some. Let's just get started. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's start with the first one. So this is the first question. Philosophical questions about happiness. Yeah, okay, so first question is, what is the meaning of a good life? Okay, when I answer certain questions and people ask me certain questions that's philosophical of nature, I try to differentiate if this particular question is subjective or something that's answered in a black and white kind of way. A lot of questions, probably all questions, is subjective to a degree, but it's a matter of understanding the scale of subjectiveness within it. So in this particular question, it's quite subjective, most importantly knowing that, because it's asking what a good life is, and good life isn't something specific. Everyone has a perspective of what a good life is, and this can particularly be varying depending on your socio-political standings, your ethical background, ethical background. Your ethical background then I guess too would really, affect that, but your ethnic background, how you were raised, and various other things. So I feel a good to answering this just by itself, the way I would answer it, it will be a good life to me is whatever a person sees a good life is. So it's a term that fits directly to the person's perspective on it, if that makes sense. Okay, so but answering that with my own means, not with my own means, but my personal opinion, because it's very opinion kind of question. To me, a good life is a good life that's a good life to me is a life that is well cherished, and well cherished where a lot of external impulses are inputted as much as possible, whether it's something positive or negative. Okay, so here's the thing by that. Okay, I have actually two things to discuss for that. But I mean the external impulses, and absorb as much inputs of those as we can. It's basically just seeing as much things to see, taste as much things to taste, smell as much smells to smell, and feel as much things to feel. That one in particular is very, very, very important. There's a particular book that really opened my eyes when it comes to the sense of touch. It's literally called Touch, and the book that I have, there's two covers, I believe, for that one, for the paperback, and one of them's like there's a thermatic effect. Did I use that term like the right way? Okay, so yeah, it has a thermatic effect, wherein if your hands is warm, it makes a mark on the book, which is so awesome. Yeah, it's so awesome. I don't know where that book is. Yeah, I think I bought the book like twice and gave it to people twice because the book is so good. I want people to read it. I'm a very I give stuff to people kind of person. So I didn't even finish it, but I just thought to the people that I gave it, it's something important for them to read. But yeah, so you all should look into that book. Let me look what the author is called. Who the author is. I'd say so. Touch book. Okay. I'm not even sure if I said the title correct. Pretty sure it's called Touch. Yeah, Touch by David J. Linden. And it's in bookdepository.com. And it's the cover, the white cover, which is not the therma blah 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 kind of cover. That one's like a blackish kind of color. Yeah, blackish chroma color. Yeah, but anyway, so sorry. This is how I talk specifically. I'm very like I go in loops. But I'll try to stay away from that and get straight to the point. So, the question was, what is the meaning of a good life? And I said, yes, a good life is inputting as much external impulses as possible, and yes, so feeling as much things to feel. I feel that's really important. Oh, and there's also a really important quote from one of my favorite movies or books, I'd say, as well. Although I haven't finished reading the book either. I'm a book hoarder. I always buy a lot of books and read them and then get interested in another kind of book, which is really bad. Should be able to finish them at least. But there's this particular quote in Call Me By Your Name about feelings that I think is really important in this particular question and my views on it and what is a good life. Okay. Call Me By Your Name book quotes. Okay, so I just look up Call Me By Your Name book quotes. Okay, and here it is. I actually used to say this quote to people in my year. I would just go and sit with them and just say this quote. I was a weird kid. I was the kid that everyone that was friends with everyone. So it wasn't much of a problem. Like, people wouldn't care. So okay, so anyway, the quote is I want y'all to listen and feel it, because I really do feel for this quote. Okay, so it goes along the lines of, we're about so much of ourselves to be cured of things faster than we should, that we go bankrupt by the age of 30 and have less to offer each time we start with someone new. But to feel nothing, so as to not feel anything? What a waste. This particular quote is quoted by Elio's father, so Mr. Perlman, and it was during that time. Okay, I don't want to spoil anything to y'all, so if you want to watch it, go do it. Don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, that's one of the quotes that Mr. Perlman says to Elio. Yeah, so yeah, I feel as though we should feel as much things as we can and not deny any feelings at all, positive or negative. And there are certain cases people can contradict me, and do understand the contradiction that would occur when it comes to this kind of thinking. And what if it's like a negative experience that's particularly not ideal? I'd say when I see those things, there are certain things that I see positive and negative and stuff that are evil of nature. For me, that's something that is quite clear to me. You know, there are things positive of nature, like enjoying the view of a really beautiful sea in a yacht or something like that. Something that's a positive impulse that I would definitely cherish myself. And something negative would be, maybe a heartbreak of you and your first love. That's something negative of nature that I would feel as much as I can during my time, falling in love the first time and having my heart broken the first time. It was something that I cherish, and feel as much, as much as I can. And stuff of evil of nature, if someone has done really, really bad things to you of nature, I'm not sure if that's something I want to speak directly about in my podcast. I want this to be a safe space as well for people that are listening, so you know what, I'll cut that out. So I don't want to trigger anything from any of my listeners at all, but I want my intent to be shown there as well, that I do understand the differences between positive experiences, negative experiences, and experiences that are evil of nature. So if it's evil of nature, if I'd be in those positions, I'll probably not input as much things as I can during those moments anyway. So let's just get into it. Let's get the good vibes going. Okay, so my cursor just went on a particular question. It goes along the lines of, do acts of kindness have a motive? This is a really badly worded question because it's very vague. The words in particular, actually. Okay, so do acts of kindness have a motive? If sheer specific kindness, like the truest kindness, I think these particular acts are without motive. It's simply for the act of doing kindness itself. I'd like to think that I'm a good person, and doing kind acts myself, it's definitely something that I do not intend to do for a particular motive. Maybe something as simple as smiling to someone. I guess there's a particular motive. I think the problem here is the word motive itself. It's a word that has mixed connotations on it and makes it sound kind of weird. So you know what, I'll say yes. Acts of kindness have motives in them, but motives that almost act subconsciously, if that makes sense. I myself, an act of kindness that I'd say I do almost robotically is smiling at people when I'm on public places. It's probably me being awkward all the time, so my way of coping it is smiling. But yeah, so maybe subconsciously it's like to make people feel comfortable. That's my way of making them feel comfortable. But think about it, that's probably not the best way to make people feel comfortable in this day or age. Smiling at them, people will probably be going like, oh, y'all's this kid, this be creepy as fuck. But so it's chill. But yeah, so I think there is a motive, like every other act's done, but especially for things of truest kindness as a specific nature of an act, I feel as though the motive is very subconscious, especially if you're a good person. And if you're a bad person trying to be good, go you. And that's your motive, to be good, go you. No, don't let the philosophical questions question your motives in particular. Okay, so the next question here is it easier to love or to be loved? That's a question that's really easy to answer for me, but it does elicit some questionings in the mind. Is it easier to love or to be loved? Thankfully, I'm a person that has experienced both. I'm a person who has loved and has loved in many different forms, romantic or not. And for me, I believe that it is much more easier for me in particular to love a person than to be loved. I feel that this is something that can be synonymous with a lot of people out there. It's hard for people to be loved, but if you love something, you just love it. it's not something hard to do. It's because it's something of a nature to do, you know. If you love something, you just love it, and there's no particular hurdles that are stopping you to love something, you know. So you just love it, and it's a lot easier than that, than, you know, other people loving you. And people can say like, oh well, you just gotta accept that people love you. But in terms of individual people and knowing the complexities of experiences they have had, and, you know, the insecurities that people have on the norm, it's really not as easy as that, as you know, accepting to be loved. To be loved, it's hard. It's hard, at least to me. You know, maybe y'all can comment about that, and what you think when it comes to being loved. But I do feel as though this is something personally something that I would struggle with. By struggle, I don't mean like I struggle with it every day, but you know, like as a question and answering it, weighing it, it's easier to be loved. But I mean, it's easier to love than to be loved, I'd say. Okay, so let's move on. I don't like that question. The next question I saw it goes along that, is there a perfect life? That's basically the same as a good life kind of question. Probably answer it the same way. You know, it's very subjective. And a perfect life to me, if it's a question directed to how I see it, is, you know, it's a life that's well cherished. And well cherished in a way where you absorb as much impulses as you can. Let's find here good questions, y'all. It's not much good questions at all, you know. It's 105 philosophical questions. I thought we'd have some good ones at least. I mean, the ones that I just answered are mediocre at best. I mean, if in a philosophical question, I'd expect it to be something where, you know, it's more engaging, in my mind, than it is, you know, those other questions that I just answered. Okay, I mean, I think this is an okay-ish kind of question that will elicit a discussion. The question is the most important purpose in life to find happiness? Okay, so going to my subjectiveness scale, this would be partly black and white, at least compared to the other ones. Okay, is the most important purpose in life is to find happiness? Okay, so answering that with my own perspective, I'd say yes. Purpose of life is to seek happiness. Back then I probably answered this going like, no. You know, like the most important purpose in life is innovation. But, you know, going through life and understanding people and how they feel, and, you know, really understanding the complexities that occur within that, and understanding differences that we have, I feel as though happiness is really what matters in life, really, and that's that's probably the most important purpose in life. It's happiness, and it's happiness that's subjective to you as an individual. So to me, personally, it will be small things. I don't know why I'm calling it small thing. It's quite big things. So things such as innovation is definitely something that I would find happiness in. Every time there's something being innovated in a certain industry for the good, it's something that gets me excited and makes me happy. That's the purpose of life to me, you know. Even though it's in different shapes or forms, it is basically is in a singular person's seek for happiness is what I think the most important purpose there is, you know. If to you the most important purpose to you is something like beauty in things. Although it's beauty in things in its simplest means, it's happiness behind it that makes it an important purpose for you. And I really like the word purpose here because it takes out. It doesn't take out, but it makes it more specific to something, something higher, if that makes sense, higher of nature, that's specific to a person, so a person's purpose. So apart from it being something that just makes you happy, it's also something that elicits passion, and thought, and most importantly, discussion within oneself. So I think that's really important. So that's my answer for that. I think that's a really good one compared to the other ones. Let's see. Does utilizing time properly make our lives meaningful and happy? Definitely. It also depends to a person, maybe not utilizing the time, but being able to be as flexible as it can makes their life meaningful and happy. But to me in particular, and knowing myself, utilizing that's just my chair. Utilizing my time is definitely something that's personally make my life more meaningful and happy, because probably lazy around. I'm not inherently lazy, but easily bored, so utilizing time is really important. And I lack motivation quite easily. Hopefully I'm able to actually post this podcast. But anyway, let's just get into it, y'all. So okay, so next question is, so I think this is a good question. How do you know if you love someone enough to marry them? Okay, so how do you know if you love someone enough to marry them? Okay, so in this particular question, I have a very specific answer right off the bat. But I want to discuss more about the particular answer and why I come to that particular conclusion. I don't know how I'm going to discuss it, but okay. So, how do you know if you love someone enough to marry them? Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna go particularly my perspective as a whole in this particular question. I see marriage something as not like a romantic relationship goal kind of thing. I see marriage as a legal matter that occurs in a society, like a partnership between two people that's in legal papers. And I'd say that most particularly because I'm a bisexual person. You can even say biromantic to a degree. That's probably me just boxing it in one, but I identify myself as bisexual, and I have been in relationships of women and men, and by that nature I understand the very degree from which how this is really a question of legal matters than an actual romantic kind of thing, because a big part of it is the idea of LGBT rights when it comes to marriage, particularly gay rights, as gay people in certain countries, quite a bit of countries still at the moment do not allow people of the same sex to marry each other. And it's, for me, in my understanding, this particular issue is a big part of it is people don't understand that this marriage isn't particularly something that's of religious nature. Way back before all these connotations that exist within romantic matters and all that just quite popularized in our civilization, probably in this couple of 100 years. Marriage is a partnership that is seen in a legal way. So in today's time, this is something that's not of religious nature. In certain countries, you know, if you're in a partnership that's not seen by the law with someone of the same sex, let's say your partner is a soldier, you won't be able to claim your partner's your partner's corpses and you know, all these various things if someone happened to your partner from going on, because it's not a partnership seen by the law. So I don't think those particular rights specific to only heterosexual people in marriage should have access to, you know. So but you know, but that's just how I see the question. I see it more as a law kind of thing. But if I put myself in the perspective of seeing this as like a marriage, like in a romantic kind of marriage, how do you know if you love someone enough to marry them? I guess you just know. I don't think there's anything specific where you know, you go like, oh, this happened, should marry this person. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people that has very successful marriages, they just know that this is the person to marry. And although I do understand that quite partly to me, when it comes to love, I'm also very thinky and very feely about it. And understand as well that it's the personality dynamic that occurs between a person and to another is what makes a relationship work. At the same time, actually, yeah, that's the only thing I see how a partnership would work. It's their personality dynamic. Oh, and their faith within each other, you know. And the amount of love. How can we not forget about love when talking about romantic relationships in particular? But yeah, I think you just know. If yeah, that's enough. I mean, that's how you know if someone's enough to marry them. Let's keep going and look for good questions. You know what? So there's not much enough dead air. I'll probably cut off the dead air anyway, looking for good questions, because it's quite hard. Surprisingly, saying that there's 105 in here. Okay, does fate exist? Okay, I think it's a really important question to express my ideas and thoughts as well. But this in particular would probably be leaning towards more the theology side of things when it comes to philosophy. Okay, so does fate exist? Okay, so let's actually go to Google and Google out what fate means. Just so people have a, you know, like a specific understanding of what it is in the question. Okay, so fate. The development of events outside a person's control, regarded as predetermined by a supernatural power. So yeah, the development of events outside a person's control. But you know, it's regarded by a supernatural power. Let's go backwards. Where's that? I have a lot of tabs, y'all. I'm that kind of kid. So if you're into MBTI, I'm an ENTP, if you guys want to know. ENTP. Probably chiller than a lot of ENTPs, really. Probably talk about MBTI in future episodes. Not specific to MBTI. But MBTI, if you since I already talked about it, it's in Myers-Briggs type indicator. It's a personality theory that I feel as though it's quite a lot deeper than actual, you know, than what people would normally see it as. If you actually got into it, you know, it's really not just extroverted intuitive thinking and feeling, or extroverted intuitive thinking, extroverted intuitive thinking and perceiving. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's my personality type. It's more the traits behind all those, like extrovert intuition, introvert intuition, but you know, that's for future content. Okay, so does fate exist? How I see it, yeah. I'd say that fate exists. Okay, so my religious standpoint is I'm agnostic. I'm an agnostic. An agnostic is someone that's more like a, okay, so a person that that has a religion would be particularly a religion that's, you know, like a specific god kind of religion. Someone who has religion, so someone who follows a religion would be someone who believes in God. Someone who's an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God. So I'm an agnostic, and I'm a person that believes in reason, and by reason I mean reason and open-mindedness in conjunction to that, because at the moment, looking into reason, if we actually did just specifically do by reason right now, it will be probably leaning towards atheism anyway. But I'm a person that's open-minded, so that's how I see agnosticism is being able to, you know, be open with reason, and whatever is more weighing logically, that's what we believe in. At the moment, I'm like very middle. Like, I don't believe in a god, but I believe in a universe that's highly connected to each other, that works in a way where it's, you know, if one moves a certain particular manner, this particular manner in the universe is moved as well. I see things in a way where space is this one particular cloth. When this particular cloth is moved, it affects the whole thing. That's a very speculative kind of belief, yeah. But if I put into terms how I see things, that's very very similar to East Asian beliefs of the red thread, basically. Yeah. So I'd say I think fate exists, and saying that, that's quite close to astrology in a sense anyway. And yeah, I'm very 80 kind of percentage when it comes to astrology, because I did research astrology back in high school when I'm not meant to research it and meant to research other things. I was that kid that likes to research a lot of things and in depth, you know, especially things that's not like school related. I was the rebel in that kind of way, apart from also skipping school a few times. Ooh, I'm sorry, Mom. You know, I still graduated, you know, but anyway, so yeah, I'll probably talk about that along with MBTI and future content. So if you wanna know about a lot more of those stuff and my thoughts and opinions and that, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I don't know where I'm gonna put this. Probably gonna be in YouTube as well, but I have a particular idea on what podcast platform I'll put this out on. But yeah, I'd say fate exists because I see things that way, like I said previously. Let's go more in depth. Okay. Oh, the questions are getting more and more interesting. It's something, but these are questions that goes to a point where I don't have a specific answer right now, and I'll probably be blabbering those questions head on, and this podcast is gonna be hella fucking long if I start thinking about these and, you know, speaking out my thoughts about these. What do we do? This is just a stupid question, this one goes, why do we do things we do not like to do? Because there are really things that you do need to do even though you don't like to do it. It's just as simple as that. Okay, ooh, interesting. Okay, I'll see how long. Oh shit. I'll see how long this podcast is right now. Jesus Christ, 46 minutes. Oh God. Okay. Probably just answer 2 more. Okay, so Okay, so I'll answer this one question. Not sure. Let's see how it goes. Probably cut off quite a bit anyway, because I have quite a bit of dead air. Okay, but this one goes along the lines of: are we the biggest threat to humanity? That's actually quite a really good question. I'd say yes. And with the display of human nature in the, past couple of centuries we've been living in this world, I do think that that we are the biggest threat to humanity itself. And I do feel as though this is a hurdle that we are able to suppress once various things are addressed in our society. We'd be able to, progress and not be a threat to ourselves, but instead just innovate as a society as a whole. But yeah, I definitely think that we are the biggest threat to humanity, with the showcase of various horrendous things that has occurred in human history. So yeah. This one's fun. If aliens attack, what will we do? We'll probably be extinct. By the very fact that the questioning here is attack, and if it's a alien civilization that's able to, travel those amounts of space just to get here, because in just particular solar system that we have, I don't think there's alien life. But even so, if it's an alien life that's confident enough to attack one civilization, y'all's hella fucking strong, and we probably won't be able to fight off anyway. Like, what will we do? Gen Z is the most populated generation at the moment, right? In today's time, like, what would Gen Z do if, like, as a majority of a generation, like, do TikToks? I don't know, unless our governments are hiding a secret power, like maybe there's a secret service particularly for alien space alien attack, hopefully there is, and you know what, I low-key would like, I'm dead inside anyway, so low-key I'd be probably enjoying it. Very, very bad thing to say in a podcast, but yeah. We're also being honest here, this is how I think. So, but anyway, yeah. Probably not. But who knows? Maybe we have the X-Men out there hiding in plain sight. Does God have supreme power? That's a really interesting question, and this is a very subjective question, being that the nature of God is something that can be understood in many ways because it's not something that's specific and concrete, because the idea of God and God itself as a being is not something that we isolated as a society. It's not even something that we have proved to exist. So, but if I see God, if I go in a perspective where I see God and have all these various way of me seeing things, I'd say God would not have supreme power. Because if God is the way how other religions portray him, as a person of good nature, and he has supreme power, and a lot of these things just happen, like a lot of really, really evil things happening in the world today, I don't think God really does have supreme power, because if he did, he'd probably be doing a lot of works for these things to not happen at all. I don't want to go to specifics. I'd probably cry in a podcast, and I don't want that in my first episode. Maybe in future episodes if you guys are into that. Hopefully not. But yeah. I think God is just an existence that exists in a vast universe, conscious but not possessing of a supreme power, I guess. You know, a lot of these philosophical questions are okay. To me, the philosophical questions that I like are philosophical questions where I can isolate by logic. So something metaphysical, but not metaphysical of like a theological nature, because that's my problem with theology. It's a philosophical study of things that are not even you know what, I'll scrap that, because a big part of theology as well as the societal societal effects of religion. So let's y'all should do your own thing, keep doing research, you all do you. But yeah, I mean, with philosophical questions, I like answering ones that are based of logic, the ones that I can isolate by logic, and at the same time have feelings on it as well. I think that's something that I have to learn, being an ENTP myself. It's definitely something that probably something I've mastered now as well, thankfully, quite early in life, is balancing between feeling and thought. And it's really important for me to make decisions based on those two as well, as much as possible. But there are various things in life and questions wherein the answer is should be answered by thought and logic itself, and the other one is by feeling, so this is a good question. I should answer this one as well. Will racism cease to exist? So racism, let's have a concrete definition for that first before I answer that. So racism: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Okay, so I think that racism will cease to exist, and it's not just a thing, it will happen, I know for sure. Racism will cease to exist, mostly knowing youth nowadays. There might be various very minor groups in our youth that will probably misled by various older organizations that advocate racism. But knowing and seeing our generation as a whole, we're quite a generation that's aware of what is wrong and what is right in a moral standpoint. And with understanding dating nowadays as well, and in today's day and age, people just be dating whatever race there is, which is amazing, because race, I feel like, is something that just boxes people out. In my personal belief, I don't think race is something that's at all something that's innovative. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it, but yeah, I think it's the way it is. But in the future, everyone's gonna be mixed race, so I don't think anyone's gonna be like racist or even have the capacity to be racist at all if quite a chunk of people in the future would be mixed races anyway. So so I really don't think racism will exist at all. But hopefully, even if race will cease to exist itself. Oh yeah, that's my answer for that, actually. Will racism cease to exist? I think not, because race will cease to exist as its own anyway, so there's not gonna be a specific prejudice to race if race doesn't exist in the future. But once that happens, I do hope culture still remains, culture at least that's not toxic of nature, because we gotta face the facts here, you know. I love diversity and culture and all that, but this is probably evident in every single culture that in every single culture, whatever culture it is, there's gonna be a toxic culture that's inherited along with society with that. So I do hope those particular ones it's gonna be understood more and avoided. But you know, even if once race cease to exist, I do hope, you know, good cultural things will remain, such as, you know, various foods, cultural foods, different cultures of foods. I just love food. If you also are into palm reading as well, I did palm reading. I had my palms read, and the palm reader that I had was a astrologer as well, and he said that I'm a Venusian. I actually had a lot of mounts in my hands, so he did say I'm various kinds of planetarian influences in my personality. But yeah, I was a Venusian, he said, and I like various kinds of foods, and that's really true, because me and my friends, every time we eat out, I'd always order more than I would and should, something like to share kind of thing. Like I want variety, so I do hope that's something that remains. Probably will. I mean, food culture and culture itself, it's something that's very distinct from each other already, although very connected. So yeah. Yeah, I think we'll just wrap it out right now. Sorry, that's me and my pen. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll just wrap it out now. It's a long podcast already. I've been recording for about 59 minutes. Interesting. So I've been recording for 59 minutes now, and so I think I should stop. I'm gonna be recording the dead air anyway, so it's probably gonna be a lot less. But yeah, that's all for now. I hope y'all's people that are listening to this have a grasp of how I think, how I feel, and what is my stand in various things. So being that this particular podcast that I'm making is something about mostly of my opinion, thoughts, and feelings, I do hope that it makes you a lot more interested in how I'd address various contemporary issues, ideas, and concepts, you know. So for my next few episodes, I feel as though it's gonna be about my generation in particular. It's gonna be a podcast discussing Gen Z. So why would I make a podcast called Gen Z Talk and not even talk about my generation, right? So I feel like let's get that down to business, you know, that particular yeah. So yeah, thank you all for listening, and I do hope that you ended up listening to this all up until the end. It's gonna be quite a long podcast, you know. I mean, it's a podcast about my thoughts and opinions anyway. It's not something educational. Hopefully it is educational to a degree, but it's not like a specific kind of educational kind of podcast where those ones are a lot shorter, because it's not like a discussion kind of thing. It's weird having discussion with yourself, but I do talk a lot by myself, so it's not hard making these. But anyway, so yeah, I just want to say thank you again for listening, and I do hope that you enjoyed your time here listening to this podcast. I hope I'm able to serve my podcast the same in future podcasts. But anyway, that's all for today's episode. Hope you all have a wonderful 2020, and it's a new decade, guys. let's make some new change, new things, new powerful things in life. I'm not a motivational speaker. That's not my nature. But I'm just a very optimistic person, y'all. But yeah, so I hope you guys do amazing things this year and the decade, and then your life as a whole. Just do amazing things. This is one of the amazing things that I'm trying to do, is making a podcast. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed your time here, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.